Justice, Crime and Prevention and Security Cluster, chaired by Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, is about to brief the media on the implementation of the cluster program of action for the year 2016 and 2017 following the State of the Nation address. And Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula will be supported by the co-chairperson, Minister Nathi Nhleko, and some members of the cluster. These are the live visuals.
Of asylum seeker permits. We've noted the issues raised with government and reiterate the need to expedite matters in this regard through, amongst others, establish an integrated border management agency authority to improve border management, ensuring compliance with laws and the South African Constitution by citizens and foreign nationals, taking a whole-of-state approach to concerns raised by communities, and lastly, promoting better dialogue and policing between communities and authorities. The cluster will ensure that matters are resolved to the satisfaction of the South African public. We also reiterate the Home Affairs Minister's call for responsible public comments by all leaders and public representatives. We should all act responsibly to prevent any loss of life and damage to property. The launch and renaming of Marabastad as Desmond Tutu Reception Center is a step in the right direction. It demonstrates South Africa's commitment to an improved system of asylum seeker and refugee management. It discourages queues and helps in combating corruption and bribery. The new improved and modernized center with an automated booking system was launched on Friday, the 17th of February by the President of the Republic of South Africa, J.J. Zuma. The Interministerial Committee on Migration, led by the Minister in the Presidency, Jeff Radebe, continues with the work of addressing the underlying causes of the tensions between communities and the foreign nationals. Some of the challenges that have been identified and being addressed are the strict implementation of our labor relations policies as they pertain to foreign nationals, the implementation of the laws that govern business licenses, the country's border management, and the country's migration policies in general. Whilst this work continues, we urge our communities to isolate the criminal elements who are hijacking the concerns of communities to loot shops and attack innocent people just because they come from other countries. Anyone who feels that their rights are being infringed upon should report to their nearest police station. Our country has the institutional and legislative framework to peacefully resolve any challenge without resorting to violence. We want to assure all people in our country that the law enforcement agencies are monitoring the situation on the ground closely. A situation where people take the law into their own hands or incite others to commit violence will not be allowed to continue. Fighting crime. During his State of the Nation address, the President reflected on the crime situation in the Soshanguve area. We would like to reassure South Africans that these matters are being addressed. Multidisciplinary operations and deployments concentrating on hotspots not only in Soshanguve, but in all station areas bordering Soshanguve are being intensified. A special team of detectives which deal with these cases has been reinforced. We call on all sectors of the Soshanguve community to work closely with law enforcement agencies in the fight against crime in that community. Progress in relation to these crime-fighting operations will be provided at the next briefing of the cluster. We've noted that South Africa's recently released Victims of Crime survey and are currently working with all key stakeholders and specialists to respond to it responsibly to some of its assertions. We remain committed to instilling public confidence in the police and the entire criminal justice value chain at all times, especially amongst victims of crime. According to the statistical data, overall crime in South Africa has decreased between 2015 and 2016, with 2.1 million crimes reported in the 12 months measured. Although still concerning, This overall improvement comes on the back of the implementation of an effective crime combating strategy, which includes actions to reduce contact crimes. The cluster remains resolute to rid our communities of criminals and the realization of a South Africa where all citizens are and feel safe. The cluster continues to implement various crime-fighting operations across South Africa to ensure communities are and feel safe. Some of these include school safety programs to ensure that conditions at our schools are safe and conducive for teaching and learning. The commitment of prosecutions to focus on specialized crime is further reflected in the high conviction rates obtained in environmental crime, rhino poaching prosecutions, and copper theft prosecutions, in which a 93% conviction rate was maintained, coupled with an overall conviction rate of 91% in all organized crime. On unrest at institutions of higher learning, the JCPS cluster would like to recommend members of the South African Police Service who worked long hours under difficult circumstances in maintaining safety, security, and stability, and exercising maximum restraint even in the face of extreme provocation. We further reiterate that such acts of violence as witnessed at our universities have no place in our democratic society. On safer, festive season, back to basic operations. After conducting thorough analysis of past and recent performance of the South African Police Service, police leadership concluded that urgent, focused action was required to ensure that the SABC is an organization every South African can be proud of. It was at this point that the back to basics approach to policing was introduced. The approach focuses on every police officer doing the basics of policing properly and consistently. Amongst others, the approach prioritizes building of stronger police-community relations to improve community safety. The Safer Festive Season operations launched in October last year to help make South Africa a safe place during the 2016-17 festive season period has yielded remarkable results. The operations were characterized by high police visibility in all areas, with many people such as shopping centers, malls, and beaches. Notable successes of the operations were as follows: contact crimes decreased by 5.3%, contact-related crimes decreased by 5.4%, property-related crimes decreased by 2.2%, and other serious crimes decreased by 5.3%. A total of 83,479 persons were arrested during the 705,639 policing operations, and 1,060 firearms, amongst other items, were confiscated. Tackling the social and economic consequences of the illicit drug trade. Our President has committed government to immediately review and enhance its programs and strategies that are aimed at fighting crime and drug abuse in order to ensure safer and peaceful communities. President recently undertook visits to the townships of Soshanguve, north of Pretoria, and Nyanga in Cape Town to interact with residents, recovering drug addicts, and leadership of the South African Police Service. He led the discussions about challenges as well as support needed in relation to the fight against crime in those communities. These visits underscore the commitment at the highest level of our government to build safer communities free of illicit drugs and crime. The cluster is currently following these instructions of the President in looking at ways of improving its policies and strategy. The Department of Social Development established the Central Drug Authority to coordinate efforts to combat substance abuse in terms of the Prevention and Treatment of Substance Abuse Act 70 of 2008. The Central Drug Authority developed the National Drug Master Plan 2030-17, which is currently under review. The NDMP is a government blueprint for strategic interventions to address the problem of alcohol and drug abuse. It has 3 pillars: supply reduction, demand reduction, and harm reduction. Supply reduction is to address the issues such as illegal manufacturing, distribution, sale and trafficking of drugs and precursor chemicals. Demand reduction mainly deals with early intervention and prevention of the abuse of drugs and alcohol. On the other hand, harm reduction focuses on treatment, reintegration and aftercare services. Government currently has 7 public treatment facilities that are operational in Gauteng. And in Gauteng we have 1, in KZN 2, Western Cape we have 2, Mpumalanga we have 1, Eastern Cape 1. We've finished the building of 3 treatment centers in Limpopo with 1 and Northwest 2. 2 other treatment facilities are currently being built in the Free State 1 and the Northern Cape 1. The government has further developed treatment model to ensure quality and easy delivery of treatment services. Prevention programs have also been strengthened to support treatment services. There are education and awareness raising campaigns being conducted around the country. These campaigns are targeting students, learners and out-of-school children and youth, women, adults and the general public. These include Kimoja Education and Awareness Campaign, International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, Institutions of Higher Learning Campaign, and Festive Season Campaign. On violence against women and children, government continues to roll out designated victim-friendly facilities to ensure that victims of interpersonal violence, such as sexual offenses, domestic violence, and others are handled with due sensitivity. These designated victim-friendly facilities are located at 1,034 sites around the country, including at police stations, airports, and railway stations. Recently, the Minister of Social Development launched a disability enhancements tool for the 24-hour gender-based violence command center. There are currently 55 Tutuzela care centers across the country. The condition rate of cases stemming from TCC for up to a year to the end of August 2016 was 72%, which is 719 of the 1,102 cases finalized. The TCCs are working closely with sexual offences courts in providing victim support services to make the court experiences less traumatizing, informative, and responsive. Between August 2013 and November 2016, 51 out of a target of 57 courts around the country have been upgraded into sexual offences courts and are fully operational. The National Prosecuting Authority performed exactly during the reporting period 18 April 2016 to December 2016 by achieving a remarkable 72% conviction rate in sexual offences cases and obtaining 3,681 convictions. This therefore represents a 1.5% increase in the conviction rate achieved through collaborative and focused approach followed by all key stakeholders. Under correctional programs to prevent recidivism, the Department of Correctional Services continues to reform in tandem with the rest of the criminal justice system. We remain committed to building a humane, efficient, and effective correctional system. Implementation of a multidisciplinary strategy in its operations, which has resulted in an unprecedented number of offenders participating in various rehabilitation programs. One of the strategies of fighting crime is to ensure that those who are released from prison from correctional centers do not relapse and commit crime again. The Department of Correctional Services continues to work hard to turn correctional services prisons into correctional centers through offering various services. We are encouraged that compliance levels with parole and probation conditions has improved to reach a historic mark of 98%. Overcrowding in our correctional centers is a stubborn challenge that remains a key concern. The cluster has agreed that there is a need for continuous engagement and a collective approach, both at national, provincial, and local level, to find lasting solutions to the challenges of overcrowding in the country's correctional facilities. Under fighting corruption, We continue to reap the benefits of a strong anti-corruption architecture. Progress in the fight against corruption continues. The anti-corruption task team continues to coordinate our multi-agency approach to fighting corruption and maladministration. This year, the SIU will work towards re-establishing the special tribunal as per legislative framework. This will ensure a fast tracking of SIU civil cases instituted to recover money and/or assets lost by the state. Under borderline management, as part of our cluster's priorities, the SANDF continues to be involved in the government national security strategy as the imperative for security as well as the fight against crime and corruption. The SANDF continues to play a pivotal role in safeguarding South Africa's borders. Members of the South African National Defence Force have been deployed along all the international borders in 7 of the 9 provinces. In the first 2 months of 2017, major successes have been registered. We would like to reiterate our position that no country in the world is immune to the threat of terrorism and its related activities. The JCPS cluster, through its law enforcement agencies, continues to identify and address violent extremism and terrorism-related activities. We are committed to ensure that our country remains a relatively safe and free of attempts to destabilize it. Joint operations of all intelligence community structures will continue, as well as the sharing of information critical to countering any threat that is identified. Conclusion: the task of accelerating radical economic transformation is increasingly linked to that of ensuring that our people continue to live in conditions of safety and security. The South African government takes its responsibility of ensuring safer communities very seriously. The plans that have been outlined during the State of the Nation address for intervention in the socio-economic conditions of our people will assist us in addressing some of the underlying causes of insecurity. The cluster has outlined various policy interventions in response to developing trends and causes of insecurity in our society. Recent events where our people have at times taken to the streets have necessitated a relook into the functioning, structuring, and capacity of our criminal justice system. The National Crime Prevention Strategy adopted in 1996 requires a review to address new challenges that confront the criminal justice system. While lawful protests are provided for in the country's legislative framework of national security concerns are cases of premeditated violence that at times accompany the protests. The incidents of the Marikana tragedy, the violence and torching of schools that erupted in Vuwani, and the damage to institutions of higher learning have overstretched the criminal justice system, and we have to plan better for these kinds of incidents. The work of the cluster of ensuring that all people in South Africa are and feel safe will continue in earnest in this year. However, government alone cannot defeat the scourge of crime and corruption. We reiterate the call on all people and sectors in South Africa to join the fight against crime and corruption. The fight against crime cannot be separated from the need for transformation of the socio and economic circumstances of our people by tackling the 3 challenges of unemployment, poverty, and the unequal distribution of the country's wealth. Each sector of our society has to play its part in creating conditions where crime may no longer thrive. We further call on each member of the public to stop looking away when acts of crime and corruption are committed. Anyone who has information about crime or suspicious criminal activity has a responsibility to promptly report such incidents to the police. Members of the public should also desist from offering bribes to public servants. Those public servants who solicit bribes should be reported to government's National Anti-Corruption Hotline. As a reminder, the hotline number is 0800 701 701. I repeat, 0800 701 701. What O.R. Tambo said at Georgetown University on January the 27th, 1987 still rings true today. and I quote, "We seek to create a united, democratic and non-racial society. We have a vision of South Africa in which black and white shall live and work together as equals in conditions of peace and prosperity," close quote. Only when we work together shall we achieve this vision of OR that is consistent with Vision 2030 as set out in the National Development Plan to build safer communities and a just society. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we will not I'll start here in Pretoria. We'll take 3 questions in Pretoria and 2 questions in Cape Town. May I see by show of hands? You know the regime, the institution, the flag. The gentleman there. The power. Let me take out the gentleman.
Good morning, and thank you for taking my question. My question is for the Minister of Defence. During a post-SONA debate in National Assembly, the Speaker of the National Assembly did say that matter
His name.
Matter.
Sorry. The name and number.
It's chronology. I'll start again. During a post-SONA debate in the National Assembly, the Speaker did mention that the matter relating to the presence of 441 standard soldiers have been referred to further investigation. I just wanted to find out if this matter is receiving special attention by you, and how far are you into your investigations as well?
Thank you, Nicholas.
Good morning, Ministers. Nicholas Barr from UNCA. First question is just generally to the cluster. You're calling on anybody that feels as though their rights are not being respected to report it to the local SABC branch station. I'd like to know what government's when it comes to foreign nationals that are in the country that are perhaps too scared to go to the SAPS because they feel that they would be victims. Some also may not have their documentation in order, but could fall victim to xenophobic attacks or attacks character foreign nationals. How does government deal with what's your stance? And then furthermore, perhaps this is a question for Defence Minister Nqakula. Your response to local government's approach to foreign migrants and violence associated with xenophobia, particularly Mashaba, the Johannesburg mayor's approach to this?
Thank you, Nicholas.
Good morning, Ministers. Sipho Sturman from SABC TV News. This is directed from the Home Affairs. Just a bit of clarity on around the 7 employers that have been charged. Just when was this inspection? And a lot more going forward. And to add on to that, do you think then the fact that businesses have been caught with employing undocumented migrants, does that give a bit of credibility to the cries of locals that foreign nationals are taking jobs? And also, a second question relates to the deployment of SABC members. You mentioned that, just talk to us about how many have been deployed to monitor the borders, and you mentioned that between January and February there have been major successes that have been registered. What are these successes?
Thank you very much. Cape Town?
Yes, we have questions in Cape Town.
Shoot.
Good morning. I'd rather ask, not should. Hi, it's Marianne Merton from Daily Maverick. It's a question in the absence of the police minister to the acting national police commissioner, Major General Phahlane. You tabled the crime statistics for the first 3 quarters of 2016 at Parliament on Friday. This was the first time this was done since Cabinet's decision early last year that crime statistics should be tabled quarterly. What was the reason for the SAPS not having presented crime statistics on a quarterly basis, but given 9 months of crime statistics? And will the SAPS next month be able in a position to give the quarter? In terms of the cluster, my question relates to whether at this stage the cluster has considered is moving on what President Jacob Zuma on Friday told the National House of Traditional Leaders, that he had discussions with the cluster and raised certain issues that the laws are not correct in terms of dealing with crime, and that the cluster should consider coming up with new laws or changing laws to make the fight more effective. As the President told the traditional leaders, the police in his interactions both at Inyanga and Shoshanguve told him they arrest a criminal and then the courts release them. And a very short specific question to the Minister of Home Affairs, please. The presentation makes reference to the Border Management Agency, gives it certain status and responsibilities. However, whatever this agency may be at this stage, it is not based in law and legislation, because the Border Management Bill is still to be passed by Parliament. Could you perhaps elaborate on this? Thank you.
Before we move to the second question...
Hold on. Marian, I'm done with you. You're not coming back, aren't you? Thank you. The next one.
That's okay, thank you.
Continue, sir.
What I was going to request is that, because there is a feedback of some sort, if maybe we can switch off our mics that side, then we'll be able to continue smoothly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can we switch off our mics?
Good.
There's a mic there. Yeah, there. Thank you. Continue, sir.
Good morning, Ministers. Linda Ensor from Business Day. I'd like 2 questions, please, to Mr. Mashloba. What is your view, Minister, on whether there are foreign governments or foreign agencies stoking up protest and rebellion internally against the government? And do you think extra measures are required to combat this? Secondly, to the Minister of Home Affairs, the Minister of Finance is terribly concerned about the Border Management Agency taking
All right, we do apologize for bad audio there and visual loss there. That was basically the immediate briefing by Defence Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, flanked by the rest of the security cluster on the implementation of the cluster's program of action for the year following the 2017 State of the Nation address. Now, she said that fighting crime remains the cluster's biggest priorities, and multidisciplinary stations will be carried out throughout the country, stating that they remain committed to restoring dignity to the clusters. On unrest at higher learning institutions, she said that they will not tolerate the violence there, but have appealed to the response crews to take extra caution when responding to such incidents. She reiterated that the recent festive season crime initiatives all showed a decrease in various types of crimes, with over 8,000 arrests made during that time. She also stated that the new initiatives to deal with drugs and alcohol abuse and dealing have also been established, announcing that they are currently 57 treatment centres throughout the country, with 2 more new ones being built. She also spoke about women and child abuse centres that are operational to assist the victims. And 57 courts around the country have now been transformed to being purely sexual crimes courts. This to expedite these crimes quieter and or quicker rather, and more efficiently. Now, in the fight against corruption, she said that anti-corruption task team continues in dealing with these offences, ensuring that the anti-corruption agency reaches fast resolutions. She also urged all South Africans to join in the fight against crime and corruption, and reiterated that members of the public should not bribe public officials and should report any solicitation by any official. And the Crime Stop number to call is 0800 701 701.